What is up, guys? Evan Aldo here. I am in Brickell Key in front of a bunch of yachts right now and a lot of people. It's a lively place. If you're not familiar, this is like an island near like downtown Miami. I didn't realize there were this many yachts around here. Like the amount of yachts I've seen, like Crypto Yacht would be, he's probably on one of these, but you'd love this. I've never seen so many yachts before. It's like you're just yachts everywhere, just people dancing on yachts. It's kind of crazy. I feel like it's like only in Miami. Maybe LA you see that. I don't know. But yeah, what's up, guys? Beautiful day. A couple things I wanted to talk to you guys about. Hopefully you get something something out of this vlog. Aside from yachts, I feel like a lot of times, the biggest thing that you need to realize kind of in self-improvement, self-help, and getting what you want and improving your life is that you are what you think. That's one quote I heard a while ago. I'm sure a lot of people have said that you are what you think. If you're around a lot of, all right, let's say, around a lot of yachts, around a lot of partying, or maybe you can't afford to be on a yacht. Maybe you've never even been on a yacht party, or maybe you've never even been on a yacht. The more you come here and look at the yachts, the more likely you will get on one. Why? Visualization, but also it's a lot of drinking, a lot of people, maybe not making the best choices on the yachts. So you gotta think about that too. It goes both ways, but in terms of seeing the yachts, it's all visualization, law of attraction, visualization. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about every day? What are you visualizing? What are your thoughts? Are they more positive? Are they more negative? You need to observe them. That's what comes into meditation. That's really important too. And I think a lot of the successful people in the world kind of live in, they live in areas like that are kind of the same, kind of similar, like areas that are wealthier, such as here, Brickell Key or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of them, a lot of places. And I think the more you surround yourself with things like that, the more likely you kind of are to be successful. I remember, oh man, what's that guy from Impact Theory? Tim or Tom or forget his name, but he was talking about like before he had any money, when he was broke and lived in LA, him and his wife, I think he said, used to drive to like really wealthy neighborhoods and see the houses. It's all visualization. Dan Pena talks about this a lot. Before he could afford a Lamborghini or a Rolls Royce or whatever it was, he used to go to the Rolls Royce dealership and sit in the car and smell the leather. Things like that. And I know people are in the comments and are like, "Oh, and you can't afford a yacht." Yeah, I could. Maybe, maybe they'll say that, but maybe you're right. Maybe I can't afford a yacht. Maybe I have no interest in going on a yacht. Maybe I'm not that into boats. Maybe I get seasick. The thing too is like not everybody wants a Lamborghini. Not everybody wants a yacht. Not everyone wants a Lamborghini because not everyone wants to, drive a car that isn't that isn't that good for driving you know down a road. Isn't that good for things other than racing? I remember Carl from the Moon. I was watching him take his Bugatti to McDonald's, and he couldn't even fit it around the corner. It was tough. It was inconvenient. So not everybody wants that. People want different things, and I think people kind of always want more. And there's a lot of principles to learn there that you got to realize. You got to I think Naval Ravikant said, like, if you want, not wanting something is kind of the same as having it to a certain extent, at least in how you feel, about it. So another thing too, that if you really want something, you kind of need to be okay with not having it. It's kind of like where you don't want it because you already have it. This stuff is a little complicated to explain. So, if you already feel like you have something, say you already feel like you have something, say you're around that Rolls Royce, say around that yacht, whatever it may be, you're around that, I don't know, nice apartment you want to buy, nice condo you want to buy, nice house you want to buy. If you feel like you already have it, then what happens? You do not want it. You don't want it because you already have it. That's kind of the feeling you want to be in. Now, easier said than done. That could be hard because, it depends. Some people may come here and they may see the yachts and they may get depressed because, they're thinking, oh man, I'm never going to afford to be on a yacht. I'm never going to get invited on a yacht. I'm not, not the type of person who gets invited on yachts, or not the type of person who could afford a yacht. That's the wrong identity. The same goes for anything that you may want, whether it's a nice house, a nice car, good food, what have you. I mean, the possibilities are endless. There's even some things that, I see. where I'm just like, oh, I'll get maybe a little bit sad because I'll be like, oh man, that's not for me. I'm not going to be able to get that. It's just excuses. It's all nonsense because everything is probability. Like if you say like I'm never going to get something, I'm not going to be able to get something, you got to realize like it's all probability. Like in terms, I mean, if you said something like I'm never going to be able to fly, okay, that's that's proven. That's something you could prove or whatever. Like something where, but in terms of getting wealth, getting money, having freedom, those are things where you can't prove. That's all probability. You can't really prove that it won't happen. And unlikely things do happen kind of all the time. And, the probabilities change. We see it all the time. We see things change. We see differences. We see things go, a totally different way than many would have expected. I mean, look at, I don't think a lot of people would have expected, Bitcoin to go down to 15K last year. And now, well, depends who you talk to. Everybody's got a different prediction, but sometimes it doesn't happen as well as the way you expected. And a lot of times, you visualize something and you keep doing that, and you keep feeling like you have it. It'll come to you in a different way. A lot of times, a way that you don't expect. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot. Things come to you in ways that you don't expect. So, if you look at the majority of your thoughts, I'm willing to bet for most people, and Napoleon Hill talks about this, I think it's about 98% of people, he says in his book, Outwitting the Devil, which is a really interesting book. The audiobook is really good. I remember I read that a few years ago. It says Outwitting the Devil, 98% of people are controlled by the devil. Now, what does that mean? That means their thoughts are ultimately mainly negative. And it says, he talks about, like, what are some things, how does the devil lure people into the trap? Well, it's kind of like a few things are a lot of self-indulgences, vices, alcohol, drugs. Those are big ones. Laziness, not taking action. I think ultimately, a lot of times, at least in my life, I'm kind of looking at, what should I do? And there's so many different things, we have with the internet, we have so many different options. You could go on YouTube, everything is at your fingertips. It's not like it was in, let's say, the 1980s or 1950s. Like if you wanted to read a book, there weren't audiobooks, but I mean, maybe there were CDs or something, but definitely, I don't think in the 1950s or whatever, you would have had to go to the bookstore and buy the book. There were less choices, you know what I mean? Now you get everything immediately on your fingertips. There's Audible, you could get everything so quickly. YouTube, you could find a summary of any book. There's just so much information. There's so much noise, and you kind of don't know, what's good and what's bad. And that's the thing where, everything's kind of coming at you. And then usually there's so many things you never get anything done because you never take action. So if you don't know what to do, the thing is, do something. Try something. If it doesn't work out, that's all right. You could always try kind of something else. And I think there's a sense of being focused. A lot of people aren't focused. A lot of people have trouble, having a conversation or listening to a person speak more than a certain amount of time. And that's programming. That's, everything is like YouTube Shorts. Everything is TikTok. There is there's a big demand for the longer form, people talking to one another. To a certain extent, that's even getting different because they're just taking clips of that and posting them in YouTube Shorts now. That's what's happening. You're kind of falling into that. You look at both sides. I know a few years ago, Henry Kissinger said he was under Nixon, former Secretary of State, was he? I don't know, a real smart guy. He's still alive. He's in his late 90s, I think. And he said, we're all getting bits and pieces because of the internet. And, obviously this is somebody who's old. This is probably, it may sound to some of you like, Charlie Munger talking against Bitcoin doesn't really have that argument that makes too much sense other than it's, stupid or whatever, you know what I mean? But I see where he's coming from. There's definitely the negativities there. And another principle that I've been kind of thinking about, which is interesting, is as time goes on, this isn't as related, but as time goes on, I think I was watching a video by Andrew Kirby, and he was talking about how time goes on, things get crazier and crazier. There's like some theory about that, like volatility of life or something. Like as time goes on, the volatility of things just get crazier and crazier. That's like, you look at like markets, traditional markets. I know people are talking about like Bitcoin going to 40K, then going back to 10K. Some predictions like that. I'm always like, just try to get one move at a time. But one move right at a time. Focus on what's here right now. Look at these yachts. There are yachts. Freaking, I've never seen so many. Is it always like this here? Man, it's wild. But things kind of get crazier and crazier over time, and I think that's kind of like what we're seeing. Like, it's just so much information spewed at us, everything there. When life, back when these writers were around, like Napoleon Hill, back when all that stuff was around, you didn't have that much, constant stimulation. You didn't have that much. You had more time to be able to visualize exactly what you wanted. And that's the thing too. I know back, oh man, when you adjusted for inflation, I think Rockefeller, the original Rockefeller, so if you adjusted for inflation, isn't that worth it? It would have been like way above what Bezos is today, or what the richest Elon Musk, all those today. The net worth would have been way, way above what it was. And that's like, you talk about like antitrust laws came in to stop that, but maybe it wasn't that kind of stopped that prevented people from being that rich. Maybe back then there was just more visualization, more focus, that we don't really have today. Maybe this is like kind of a little introspective, like kind of odd, but yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about it here. So, I think that ultimately, what I want you to take away from this is, you know, surround yourself with people that, a lot of people, another thing too, it's more about what you surround yourself with. If you want a yacht, look at the yachts. If you want a Rolls Royce, look at the Rolls Royces, visualize that, look at those things. Don't necessarily worry about the how, that will come. There's just so many, the thing too, people are worried, oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Look, the ways to make money, to make wealth work are completely different today than they even were 20 years ago. Things change, and that ability to adapt, I think you got to ultimately learn new things. So say you're 30 or 40 years old, and you never made that much money, you never did that well, and you think, I'm too old, it's too late, it's too, I didn't really learn enough. There's new avenues, there's new things where you can learn a new thing that's coming out that not many know about, maybe crypto, maybe something else, and you could make a lot of money with that. I was watching a video by Alex Becker the other day, an old one, and he was talking about, not how to become like a multi-millionaire, but maybe somebody who makes $1 million a year, let's say. And I think most people would be happy like that with that. Like, let's just imagine you made $1 million a year. Like, let's just think about so let's say it's, I don't know, what is that after taxes? 500, 600, depending on what state you live. Say it's like 500, after taxes, 500 grand a year. Like, that's top 1%. Like, now top 1% is like, I think 800 something K a year. Fun fact, it used to be in 2015, it was like 400, that really shows you the inflation. Or maybe just, what would that show you? Would that show you more income inequality? I don't even know, honestly, but could be. But at least shows you inflation, I would say, at minimum. And, to make that, most people would be pretty happy there. And I think that's the main thing, get into the top 1%. Like Napoleon Hill said, so 98% of people don't really have what they want. Most of their thoughts are negative. They're controlled by something, they don't have true freedom, I guess. So that 2%, you get 1 or 2%, how much income is that? It's probably at least, what's the top 2%? Is it 500K a year? Something like that. And that's the number where it's like really like, that's the number where it's like, I think 500K a year, like that's like really freaking like, that's like pretty much, I mean, it depends what you want, but that's like pretty much ultimate like freedom, I would say, depending on, I mean, you would be, I'm trying to just think, but yeah, 500K to $1 million a year, that's even after taxes, like that's the most freedom you could kind of want. So that's the thing to think about. Like, I forgot how I even got onto the subject of like numbers here, but oh yeah, about like, you got to either sell a product, something of that nature. Everyone's selling either, like Bob Proctor said, everyone's selling for either a product, an idea, or a service. I believe it's one of those three things. So say you write a book, I was watching the YouTuber Jake Ducey, and I think, or you can even look at somebody like Robert Kiyosaki. I think he said in a recent interview, even though this book's been around for Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you guys obviously know the book. Probably most of you have probably even read it. That book's been around for, when did he write it? 20, 30 years ago. He still makes, I think, 300K a month off of that book. That is wild. I didn't think it would be that much at this point. I knew, I would have thought the majority of money made from that book would have been made a while ago, but you got to think about it. Like, that's a good book. He wrote it really well. I mean, who knows? I think he actually would have wrote it, I think. I know a lot of these people don't even write their own books, but I think he actually wrote it, and it's a good book, but I don't think there's anything it's a really, really, and then thinking about it some more, like, I learned a lot from that book. That is a really good book, but, if you're able to get an idea out there, you're able to get people to even spend a little bit of money on an idea, something that could potentially help them. And I know, people talk about it. There's a lot of scammers, things like that. You can't really, doing stuff like that. I mean, look at the YouTube comments, all those bots and stuff, those like Telegram scam groups, all that type of stuff. Give me that's not those people are, and those are that you can't make. That's not. Yeah, that's very obviously very unethical, very immoral. You can't get wealthy off of that. That's not really like, and you're going to end up in prison. So that's not, you're going to end up sued and in prison. So it's not like really, I mean, there are certain, bad actors, bad people, but, and then I think a lot of people are kind of like, they're, because anyone who's kind of big, anyone who has like a lot of, clout, there's always people that don't like them. I mean, if you go on the Wikipedia page for like Robert Kiyosaki, I think it's all negative, or at least most of it. Bob Proctor, like a lot of negativity. Like he's full of crap. He said in the Great Recession in '08 that you don't even have to accept that as a recession. You could still make money. So he's a bad person for saying. It's kind of like nonsense arguments like that against these people, kind of. But I mean, anything's possible at the end of the day. I mean, who knows? Maybe it all is a bunch of nonsense. Who knows? But that's kind of just how it is. But a product, a service, and it's kind of something people need. And Bob Proctor talked about. So he was some background on him. This was very interesting. He had a job cleaning floors, like literally cleaning floors, when I think he was 26 or 27 years old. And like obviously a minimum wage paying job, manual labor, nothing, no skill, nothing like that. And somebody gave him a book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And within, I believe a year or two after that, he made $100,000, I think, which is in today's money over $1 million, I believe. It was a while ago, probably about $1 million. He started his own kind of cleaning company and hired people. And he said, okay, and then you would think like, oh, okay, back then there was a lot of opportunity. He started his own business. He worked up. That's fast that he did it. Maybe he was lucky. You would think like that. But then he said, there were a ton of people that had the same exact job as him, just cleaning floors. He was the one who started a business out of it, hired, people to clean floors. I think that's what it was, something with clean floors. He hired people, started a business out of it, and he was cleaning floors everywhere and made millions of dollars from it. And he said what separated him from everyone else was what the concepts he learned in Think and Grow Rich. The concepts he learned in Think and Grow Rich. That's kind of what separated him. So law of attraction, that's a missing piece. And you kind of see, that's what I think gets, like people always say, if you're successful, he got lucky. But I think you could kind of create your own luck. I think that's where it is. Like law of attraction, positive thoughts, being able to control your thoughts. That's where you can kind of create your own luck, and the universe will give you back what you're giving out to it. I think the universe is you. This is all you. Everything you look at these yachts, all this is all me, let's say. The way I'm projecting it. It's all in my head. It's hard to explain. Subconscious, everything that you're kind of looking at is you. Everything that appears is you. And people would probably get annoyed with this. They would say, oh no, it's not me. I'm just unlucky. Well, look, I mean, even if it's not true, you're better off to think positively and at least try to improve it. Like, come on. Like try to just bear with me. And that's what I would say right there. There was another concept I was going to tell you about lastly here. I forgot what it was. Yeah, it was read books. So I would say read books. I like to listen to audiobooks. If I look down at a book for too long, my neck starts killing me. So I don't really read too much. I probably should read like real books too. But audiobooks, if you're actually paying attention to it, I think it's the same. And I learned a lot, even podcasts too, like a lot from London Real. Like I'm just telling you, like stuff I used to do before when I didn't really have any money. You know what I mean? I listened to London Real a lot. I listened to Joe Rogan. And I don't really listen to podcasts as much anymore. I probably should, but I listened to a lot of those like 5 years ago, like when I was in college. That's the thing too. Like when I was in college, I would supplement what I learned with other stuff. I would read books. I remember reading the book The Power of Now, Ryan Holiday's books. Like I read a lot of stuff, and that's all knowledge. The more stuff you know, the more you're going to be, the more power you kind of have, and things change. That's why, if you're not able to adapt and not able to learn the new concepts, you're going to eventually phase out and die. And that's kind of what happens. I think that's what kind of like ends a lot of our lives. We're not willing to learn new concepts. We're not willing to learn new things, or we're not able to, unfortunately. That's kind of sadly what eventually happens. But I think that's the big thing there. If you're not learning new things, you're dying. I mean, if you look at somebody like Jacques Fresco, I mean, I guess you could say he had really good genetics. The guy lived until like, I think 101. He was always like talking, giving lectures, learning new things. I think that's kind of what keeps you alive ultimately. And I think a lot of the, this is going to sound a little weird, but I think a lot of like the people that die kind of young, I feel like not always, but in certain ways, a lot of the ones I knew, not all of them, don't get me wrong here, but a lot of all the ones I knew, like, were really angry. They were really unhappy. It was always easy to set them off. Their inner thoughts were not good. I remember I had one high school teacher, and he was just always like, he died in his 60s, I believe. I mean, he had a lot of health issues, but he was just always really freaking unhappy about everything. Like the littlest thing would tick him off. He was just always kind of in a bad mood, like extremely sensitive. Like everything would, it was like everything was aspired against him. He would just talk, basically, these people just talk about how they're a victim and all that. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're right. Who knows? Maybe they're right. But I feel like just focusing on the negative isn't going to like help you ultimately. It's easier said than done. This stuff is like kind of hard to do. If it was that easy, everybody would be a billionaire or whatever. Everybody would be a millionaire. It's not that easy, but at the same time, it's not that hard. You just got to give it a shot. Like, if I told like a person, let's say I mean, most people wouldn't even want to like listen to me. Let's say just like friends or people I know. Like if I told them like I'm going to teach you how to get rich right now, most people wouldn't even want to listen to me. Some people would, but a lot of people ultimately, even a lot of people, some people would pay me for that information. Others would not want to hear it. They wouldn't want it. So it's like every one man's treasure is another man's trash kind of. But a lot of people don't even want to hear that information. And at the same time, they probably heard a lot of information that's nonsense. So you don't even know. There's certain they probably heard the same spiel. What's the big thing a lot of people sell you in a book or whatever, certain books, like they'll tell you like The Millionaire Next Door, that book, just save, cut coupons. That's how you're going to get wealthy. Cut coupons, compound interest, save, put it in the S&P 500. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying it's an oversaturated kind of strategy. And ultimately, I think most of the people who watch this channel want to be a little bit above that. Maybe you still have some money that you put into that, do that strategy as kind of a insurance there, but there's no right or wrong. But I think ultimately we want to be, you want to be a little bit more risky. And I think ultimately, whether that investment is in Bitcoin and some type of crypto that you believe in, something like that, I don't know, some startup you believe in, venture capitalism, maybe you do that, or an investment in yourself, in your own business. I think that's kind of what a lot of people who watch me and a lot of people who watch crypto YouTube are kind of interested in a lot of ways. They're kind of interested, in that. And I think ultimately I've heard a lot of people say, the best investment you really can make is an investment in yourself. It's not taxable. And if you build that brand, kind of, say you build that brand of yourself and you have everything kind of there, like in your, say you made, you built a brand, you made millions of dollars from it, and somebody took away every penny you had. They took away every penny you had, let's say. Probably within a year or two, you would be able to get it all back. That's what you want to kind of be. You want to kind of be there where you have that ability to get it all back, essentially. And it probably won't take, maybe it could be quick, a month or two, depending, but you want to kind of have that there. You don't want to be, you want to retire in a way where this is the best thing, because people say you put all your money into a 401k, IRAs, that type of stuff. You retire, and then let's say, this probably won't happen, very unlikely. Government comes in and says, no, we need that money. We got to pay off the nation's debt. We can't devalue the dollar. So we're going to have to tax that like crazy. We're going to take 98% of that, but we're going to have more social welfare programs. So it's going to be all right. We're going to take all your money, all that money that you saved. We're going to, unfortunately, we have to take it because we need to pay off the nation's debt. We got to pay off these things. We have to bail out the banks, what have you. We got to bail out the billionaires that screwed up, what have you, anything, You want to be in a situation where if that happens, you can get it back. You know what I mean? Where you can get that money back. That's ultimately, you want to be bulletproof, kind of. You want to be in a way where you can get all that back, assuming that everything is taken from you. That's because, you have that. What if your government doesn't give you, what if your 401k, what if there's a giant bank run? What if you can't get it out? What if everything's gone? You want to be able to have a brand or provide a service that whatever money it is that people have that's worth value, whether it's, even, I don't know, gold, commodities, food, what have you, oil, anything, whatever, the thing that people are trading, bartering with, you want to be able to get that for a service that you provide. So that's what I will leave you with. I think that we talked about a lot of important concepts here. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please smash the like button. Man, I've never seen so many yachts in my life. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. Why don't you have a good night, guys? Goodbye.